Folks, welcome in to the inaugural episode of Just Another Cleveland Sports Podcast or Another Damn Cleveland Sports Podcast. And we're still debating the name, and that's fine. That's a normal thing to do when you start a new podcast. And I'm so happy to be with my good buddy Jordan Zerm. Jordan, how's it going, man?
It's good, man. Had a microphone upgrade.
You sound so crisp.
God, yeah. I was feeling embarrassed with the quality of your audio compared to mine. So I needed to. It's funny because I've had this mic for a while, but the cord, the USB cord that came with it broke a long time ago, and I was just like, that nothing I can do. That's it.
Breaks the game. Breaks the game.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Win some, lose some.
You and I started doing this, and I was like, oh, I guess I could order a cord for like $5 that'll come the next day. So
it's the world we live in.
Got that into gear, baby. So crispier audio. We've got a couple of names we're deciding between. Things are really, I would say, looking up for us right now.
Well, and it's funny you say that because, I mean, let's not pretend like we didn't record an entire hour-long episode last week that we had to trash due to audio issues.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that at this time.
We'll leave that as a rumor.
We're gonna let the people.
That's our Snyder cut.
Talk about that. Yeah, exactly. If you want that episode, you're gonna have to protest out in the streets for it. So,
and even then, I can't imagine anybody. I mean, it sounded so bad. So we're learning some things about doing this in a kind of bootstrappy way. But the plus side is that delay allowed the microphone that Jordan's got. That's just the biggest, fuzziest microphone.
Yeah,
it's like one really of those big bees, that you see in the summertime.
That's what when I saw it, that's exactly the image that came to mind. The two cats that I live with now have taken a liking to it and have already bitten a little part of it. Fortunately, it's just this little flimsy thing, but they are into it. I do have to hide it when I'm not using it. So that's the update of what's going on.
Okay, here. So we're doing great. We're professional podcasters. Yes. We've mostly named the show. And I think we want to keep doing this. And I think we've even got some segments, which means that it's a real podcast. So, I just, like you said, strength to strength here. You can tell from my video that it's an absolute snow apocalypse here in Wisconsin. You're in California, probably snow free, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, we are. We're snow free and we're in the 70s. So,
wow.
That's why I don't want to turn my camera into any windows because I just don't want you to feel.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be upset. It's
so many more degrees than I have here. So many more.
Yeah.
So many more. I think let's start with the segment that we used to do on a previous podcast called Just Asking Questions.
Yeah.
Because I think a great way to get into this, new pod and new energy and new microphone is just to let's take it back to basics. And so I'm very curious, if you've got a question, I know I've got a question for you. So if we had intro music, this is where that segment music would go. And we're going to just ask some questions.
Yeah. And that music and a sponsorship will be coming shortly.
Oh, absolutely. I would like to be sponsored by a hot sauce for this one.
Ooh, I like that a lot. Yes. Some sort of food that I could just get directly free to my home.
Like a case of, yeah.
Taco Bell, if you're listening, I don't know.
Oh, man, that would be great.
That'd be great. Why don't
you shot really high? I was thinking a local Cleveland hot sauce is trying to get off the ground, and you were like one of the largest food chains in America.
No, I'm going right to TB. Yeah,
okay.
Hit me up.
Yeah.
Well, since you have your question, why don't you fire it at me?
I would love to fire my question at you. And this is kind of wrapped up with a conversation we want to have about Shedeur Sanders, but I think more specifically to the guys in charge. My question is, do you think a decision about the future of both or whatever, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, has already been made and they're waiting for the season to end? Or do you think that evaluation continues through the last 4 games of the season?
Honestly, I feel like it's already been made. And for as much as you and I talk about the need for change and the need for a clean slate, there is just no evidence, Andrew, of anything that they have said or how they have operated that makes me think that any changes are coming. They talk about the way they talk about Tommy Reese, the way they've talked about some extensions that they've given out about players that we hope to continue working with into the future. I have not seen anything, and now it almost feels like they've settled in a little bit with Shedeur, where they don't have this quarterback thing hanging over them between like Dylan and when is Shedeur going to play. That was the source of a lot of angst. They don't have that really hanging over them anymore. They sort of just have these last 4 games that they're just going to kind of play it out, and it seems like they've sort of settled into that. So I don't really know like what for as back and forth as you and I have gone on this. I just don't really know unless Stefanski was like, I don't want to be here anymore, which
right.
Who knows? Who really knows what's going on behind the scenes? Right. This year has seemed nightmarish from a outside noise perspective because of Shedeur. But outside of that, I just don't really see any signs that have pointed to ownership getting ready to make a big sweeping change. So I think they've already made the decision, and I don't really know what would change it at this point. Is probably my answer.
I mean, I think that's the public evidence, right? And so I think it would be a little bit hard to believe that Jimmy Haslam was doing a good job of being really upset with these guys, but keeping it a secret, because that has not really been his MO in the past. The one thing I'll say is I think there is a chance that it could really still change in the next 4 weeks, because certainly the next 3 weeks, I mean, that week 18 game against the Bengals is kind of a there's no meaning to that game. It's not going to matter for either team. But before that, you've got 3 straight games against playoff teams, essentially, or playoff hopeful teams, right? You've got the Bears, you've got the Steelers, and you've got the third team that I cannot remember at this exact moment.
The Buffalo Bills are.
That's the one. Yeah, so it's Bears, Bills, Steelers. That's the order. And I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance that they could, and we'll talk about Sanders in a minute. I think getting blown out in the way that they got blown out against, for example, like the Patriots, right? Or early season against the Ravens. If that happened against those teams, I think that could push it towards getting rid of everybody, right? Because they still, despite like the vibes are better, right? And I think we all feel that because of what happened on Sunday. The offense actually scored points, but it was against the Titans. They have the worst pass rush in the league. They were the worst team by record in the league until they beat the Browns, and the Browns lost that game. So they still have 3 wins. I think because there's less public pressure, because people are enjoying the Sanders experience, it could save them as things stand currently. I also think Andrew Berry feels, to me, positioned to throw Kevin Stefanski under the bus if needed. If I had to guess, based on what happened with making him fire Alex Van Pelt, making him hire Ken Dorsey, making him give up play calling 2 years in a row, I would guess that the Browns, Andrew Berry specifically, feels like, okay, well, the cap stuff is all under control. So the only part of this that isn't working is the coach, and he can kind of scapegoat Kevin for that and then end up in a position where he gets to hire the next coach. That feels more likely to me. So I would actually say, as of now, I think it's like a true coin flip with Stefanski. And what happens down the stretch could actually impact it. For Berry to leave, I think they would have to really get embarrassed down the stretch.
No, I think that's a really good point. I think that's a really good perspective. I think like when you think about Andrew Berry, he can very easily present the case like, hey, I've sort of dug us out and dug a path towards becoming a good football team again with this
if
draft
you don't
class.
Consider the offensive line part of the team. That's
yes.
You have to not count that.
You do. No, that's totally fair. Obviously that plus the receiver group, which like he can make the case like I'll sign somebody or I'll draft somebody.
Right.
But
yeah, and he'll say he has a plan. That's his main thing. He definitely has a plan.
But in terms of being able to sort of present to ownership a way out that can happen fairly quickly, I can see, him presenting with this draft class, with the extra picks that they got from from the trade with Jacksonville and all those things. Like there is obviously a platter that he can kind of present to be like, here's what we do moving forward to finally get out of the Deshaun Watson mess. Again, I'm not saying yes or no whether that plan is something that is inherently good, but there is a sort of a light maybe at the end of the tunnel that he can kind of present. So I think in that way, for sure. I think the other thing that is interesting, like speaking about like Tommy Rees, they obviously are like super high on him in the building. That's all we've heard. And this insane situation at Michigan has led to a unexpected opening that it's already been reported that they're interested in Tommy Rees. I have no idea what Tommy Rees's aspirations are, but I would imagine that people are probably in his ear being like, you do not want to work for the Browns for very much longer because they're the
Well,
Cleveland
yeah.
Browns.
And Michigan is, I mean, despite everything that has gone on there recently, is still a top
Yes,
10 job probably in college football.
exactly. So if he leaves and they're on another, like, are you trusting? Are you wanting Kevin Stefanski to go find another offensive coordinator? Is Kevin Stefanski wanting to do that? Is he just kind of like, all right, this gives, you know what, like, I'm good. Let's just move on. So I do think not like that. Tommy Rees leaving would be like, oh my gosh, that shifts everything. But
Right.
I do think like, for as high as they've like talked about him internally in the building, that would be interesting if he left and they had to, like, again, that's just another opportunity to be like, okay, well, we lost Rees. He's been calling plays. I mean, I know Dorsey did it last year and they just replaced him, but it's like, okay, this is another sort of opening to leave and to kind of cut bait. So I do agree with you. I think like it could be 50-50. I think Andrew Berry is staying no matter what. That's where it seems. I think Stefanski is for sure. It's not for sure that he's staying. I just have not seen, like you said, Jimmy Haslam is not good at hiding his emotions or his intentions. And there just has not been any sort of indication that he's like fed up with the coaching staff. Now, again, to your point, that could change if the Bills beat them like 70-0 or something. Like, yeah, there could be signs.
Yeah.
I will say, Andrew, there is some cover here because their next games are all going to be in freezing cold weather, including Chicago this weekend, where it's going to be like one of the coldest games on record.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah. So there is, as a person not in California, you know this. So there's enough like, hey, we couldn't do anything. It was -10 out. Hey,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's so much about how patient Haslam wants to be with the whole thing. And I think if he wants to proof that things are changing and they need to make a change, I mean, they have scapegoated the offensive coordinator and then the head coach who calls plays like 3 times now. You don't get to play that card indefinitely. And I think your point about Rees is great in terms of, I don't know if Stefanski, I don't think Kevin Stefanski hired Ken Dorsey. And I think it's an open question whether he had anything to do with the Tommy Rees hire, in all honesty, because I don't think that he has been empowered to make coaching staff decisions for the most part. So I think if Rees goes, I think the question then becomes, well, do you want to just hire somebody to become the head coach who calls plays that isn't Kevin Stefanski? Or for that matter, do you want to try and keep Tommy Rees in the building as the head coach? Yeah. I mean, if he's going to get the Michigan job, why can't he have the Browns job? Like,
yeah,
I mean, he's young, but I mean, the Rams are reaping the reward of hiring Sean McVay 2 years early. They've been winning that for the past 8 years now. Like, sometimes you got to roll the dice, and I think if he's the guy that everybody thinks he is, and like you said, they all talk incredibly fondly of him and that they're very impressed with him, you want an up and coming head coach. He's maybe in the building.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see, like, that feels like such a Jimmy Haslam seems like he's become so much more, I mean, I guess after the Deshaun stuff, like so much more risk averse in that way that like it would almost be like people would be like, isn't this just kind of what you did with Freddie Kitchens in a way? You just were like, let's
undoubtedly. Or Stefanski,
or really anybody that they've tried to do that with.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard to know because again, you and I have had conversations about who's out there as a candidate that excites you.
Yeah.
I think again, there are some things that can turn. Obviously, Rees leaving, but then you and I, have talked about Harbaugh in Baltimore, and if that goes away, where they're just like, listen, we've done as much as we can here with you. Like it's just time for a fresh voice. Like that, I think that would obviously change things, especially for Haslam, who I have a feeling reveres somebody like John Harbaugh. So then that becomes like, wow, then does he do everything in his power to get Harbaugh to come to the Browns? So that's another, shift there. So, but until those things happen, which could be sooner than later, obviously the season is winding down, but yeah, man, it's really hard to know where they're at because they've been so internally or I guess externally and how they've face the public, it just has not been any indications of this stuff. So I agree with you though that like I think it's Barry is there, and then
Yeah.
I think for now I would say Stefanski's staying. But again, there's some things that could happen that could really change things in the last few weeks of the
The
season.
last thing I'll say about this, when Freddie Kitchens was fired, we all knew that that was a train wreck season. And in retrospect, it feels super clear cut. But I remember very clearly rooting against the Browns the last few games of that season because there wasn't any public confirmation that he was toast.
True.
And they really did a good job of keeping that under wraps. And there were not any leaks that he was in danger, despite how obviously laughable it was. And then, as you'll recall, the other half of that was not only did they wash Kitchens out the door, but then John Dorsey left.
Yep.
And that was a total surprise to everybody. That was a shock. Nobody thought he was in jeopardy of being fired. And so, I do think that part of Haslam cleaning up his reputation in the league has been not leaking stuff and not getting ahead of the process and not firing people in season, because as much as he cares about I don't think he cares that much about his impression or how people think of him in the public or the media. He cares what people in the NFL think about him. And I think that the owners in the NFL have a quote unquote way that they do things that is considered professional. And I think what that means is not undercutting people that are your employees. And then once the season is over, you get them out of the door the next day. So I think it's possible that that's going on here. And we don't have a feel for it, because again, like the DePodesta thing would point to everybody being gone, as much as I agree with you that everything else has looked, and now the positivity of the rookies playing well and Sanders playing well and the offense reviving gives you that impression that maybe things will be okay. It's just a reminder that Paul DePodesta wouldn't have moved on if his job was safe for next year, because that guy likes a good job.
That guy likes a cushy remote.
That's right. Yeah.
Remote job. And don't we all, honestly, don't we all?
Hey, I mean, yes, absolutely. All right. So I want you to ask your question of me now, because that was a long conversation about the Browns and their future.
Yeah. Which I think was good and necessary. I think my question for you, since we haven't, fully touched on Shedeur, which is the other part of this equation.
Yeah.
And I think like this will tie in a little bit with what we just talked about, but we can talk about a little bit more with Shedeur. But like, how much credit would you give the coaching staff and the Browns if Shedeur plays out these last 4 games similar to his performance against the Titans? Like, how much credit are you giving, and how much are you withholding if Shedeur looks like a person? I'm not even going to say like a franchise quarterback, because I think that's silly, but
100%.
Looks like a quarterback you'd want to have on your roster next season.
Right. I think it's a great question, because the whole problem with this Brown season going back to August was that they put a bunch of quarterbacks on the roster that you don't really want on your team going forward. Like, nobody wants Joe Flacco back next year. Nobody wants Dylan Gabriel back next year. I can't imagine anybody's like, darn, we traded Kenny Pickett. So they came into training camp with 4 quarterbacks, and I would argue, based on, and this was like at the time, people were saying you can't play Dylan Gabriel. He was so bad in training camp that people were like, he's not an NFL quarterback. And we know where Flacco's at in his career, and Kenny Pickett has been bad anytime he's gotten into a game. So I would argue that you came into the season with 4 quarterbacks, 3 of which you would not want on your roster in 2026. How is that good team building? For a team that didn't have a quarterback, why does it benefit them to bring in 4 quarterbacks with a bunch of competition, and most of them are not quarterbacks that you think you can work with long term? Obviously, they felt differently about Dylan Gabriel, drafting him in the top 100. They were wrong. I mean, like, at whatever credit you give them for what happened with Sanders, you've got to first say the Gabriel pick was a wasted pick. And that guy's, like, at best, on his best day, is a competent backup quarterback. And that's not, for where they drafted him, it's not good value. So you start there, and then you talk about Sanders. Would the Browns season have gone better if they started Shedeur Sanders instead of Dylan Gabriel when they moved on from Joe Flacco? If they started Sanders against the Vikings in London? I would argue yes, because I think Sanders has enough upside and has proven that he has enough upside that by now they could actually have a pretty functional offense because he's shown growth. I think the flip side of that is I don't think you can give the coaching staff too much credit for that because they misevaluated the quarterback room so dramatically throughout the offseason. So that's kind of my look at it, is that you can't really give them too much credit. The one thing I'll say, and we've talked about this before, Reese gets credit for the offense being, I think, functional over the past few weeks and what he's done to protect Shedeur and keep him out of real obvious drop back situations, screen heavy, etc. All the things you should do with a rookie quarterback, but that Kevin Stefanski was not doing with Dillon Gabriel. So you got to give Reese some credit, I think. But in terms of like overall understanding the talent on the roster and putting them in positions to succeed, I would not give this coaching staff much credit.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say I thought your hat you're wearing a hat with a P on it, and I thought that was for Kenny Pickett, but then you just slandered him. So I thought maybe you were going to go in a different direction there, and you were really looking to support.
It's just for pandering. So I will like whoever the Browns quarterback is, I'll say is the best quarterback that's ever been. Yeah. So Shedeur Sanders, franchise quarterback.
Hey, big start for Kenny Pickett this weekend, though. He's getting the start for the Raiders. So get
excited. It's a Christmas past or whatever type of situation, Christmas present. I don't know. Yeah,
it's that. I think everything you said is incredibly fair, and I think I've thought a lot about this situation with the quarterback, specifically Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and I would like to lay out for you right now, Andrew, if I may, what I think has happened throughout the course of the season.
Should this be a segment?
This could be.
Like,
is this let me lay it out?
Or let me lay it out for you. Let me lay it out for you. Much better.
Let me lay it out for you.
Okay, great.
I need to preface this by saying I have no inside knowledge of any of this. This is truly just what I think has gone on.
You got to say it like you do know. That's
per my sources.
Exactly.
This is what's going on. Cooking. We'll start the clip right there. So I think like they took the Gabriel pick was a mistake, 100%. We both agree on that. Where they took him was insane. Everybody was like, "This is the type of quarterback he is. Why are you doing this?" And then he just turned out to be exactly what everybody thought he was. But they took him, right? So okay, fine. And then they took Shedeur because he was still there. I'm sure Haslam had something to say about that. I'm sure there was some prodding, like, just take him. He's there, whatever. I think they go into training camp, and I think they see how unprepared Shedeur is to be an NFL quarterback at the beginning of training camp. For somebody that was playing for his dad, probably didn't have too much oversight at Colorado, probably was doing whatever he wanted. Whereas with Gabriel, he's not talented, as we've seen, but all we heard about that was like how smart he was, how quickly he can learn a playbook, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Which, I think for rookie quarterbacks, it matters at the beginning. Like, is he picking up the offense? Is he understanding what we want to do from a film and a whiteboard perspective?
Yeah.
I think Dillon Gabriel probably early on separated himself pretty quickly from Shedeur, who I think probably needed a lot of work, and that's why he dropped to almost out of the draft entirely.
Well, and it seems, let me just add quickly, it seems like Sanders has taken this whole thing a lot more seriously since he got the starting job.
Yes. It was not that long ago that he was miming an interview in the locker room.
Right. So, and now he's acting like an adult. So, Andrew, what I think mostly happened, and I don't know how right this is, and I think at a certain point they hung on to it for too long, but I think they prioritize, like, okay, Dillon is studying during the week, right? He's taking practice seriously in a way we need him to. He's taking like the whiteboard sessions with the coaches, all that. Mm-hmm. So they started him when it was time. Once they had enough evidence, though, that it was like he can't really do anything on the football field as a quarterback, I think they probably waited too long to flip that switch to Shedeur, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I also think they probably were being as cautious as possible before they put Shedeur out there. And I don't know if I agree 100% with all of that. I do think I understand it initially. I think, they waited too long where the season was already lost and should have put Shedeur in probably a little bit sooner. But that is my theory on what happened, is that Shedeur did not
know how to prepare as an NFL quarterback until probably pretty recently. And I think
Yeah.
they spent a lot of time with him in the building being like, dude, we need you to be this in the classroom before we can put you out on the field. And whether that's right or wrong, and whether they waited too long, I think is fair, is super debatable. But I do think like that's what happened there. And now you've sort of seen. I mean, again, yes, it was the Titans. We'll see what he looks like in these games against
Yeah.
legitimate NFL teams.
It's
And the
prove
one
it time.
time,
Yeah.
it's prove it time. And the one time he's faced a legitimate NFL team in, well, both the Ravens in that second half, but also then the 49ers when he actually prepped, it did not go well. So
No.
again, we'll see.
Yeah.
But that's how I'm laying it out. And that's what I think happened. And again, no inside information here. It just feels like that is the most obvious thing that got us to this point.
I think it's all very plausible. And I think the other thing that's worth saying with all of that is that Kevin Stefanski, prior to this season, was always very reluctant to get a rookie into the starting lineup.
For sure.
Or to get a young player into the starting lineup. When they would acquire somebody, it took weeks for him to crack the lineup. This is a blast from the past, but you go back, I think it was 21, they traded for Ronnie Harrison, the safety, in the preseason. And it was like, well, yeah, they need a safety. So great. He'll be out there week 1. And it was like week 4 that he made his debut. So they have had under Stefanski a really strong rep for not getting guys on the field. This year has been totally different because I think part of what Andrew Berry is selling to ownership, going back to the conversation about who gets to keep their job, part of what Berry has been selling is undoubtedly, look at all these rookies we just drafted. They're going to play. They're going to get better. We're going to be okay. I can save this whole thing. And so, Isaiah Bond is out there week 1, even though he's definitely not prepared. And, Dylan Sampson got, I think, like 6 or 8 targets in the first game against the Bengals because Ford was, I believe, hurt. Harold Fannin, et cetera, et cetera. Like they were all getting run right away. It was like, whose team is this? But I think that comes from above Kevin Stefanski. He has always been that he wants to see it for a long time on the practice field before he gives you the chances in the game. And I think that's doubly true with the quarterback. He has always trusted a veteran quarterback over a young quarterback. And I agree with you on every point about Gabriel versus Sanders. And I think, for as much as like you want to criticize Shedeur for not taking it seriously, like when you're the 4th quarterback in a 4-quarterback competition, I get it a little bit. Like, I mean, if I was like the 4th alternate to host the podcast here, I would not necessarily be like, all right, I got to put a lot of practice in this week to make sure that I'm real crisp on things because I don't think I'm probably going to get the run that, and so it's like, who really cares? But, I think he's shown a different level of engagement since becoming the starter. And I mean, you don't love that, but I also understand it. So I think your theory makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, there's for sure a human element to it. Absolutely. Especially for somebody who's set a lot of records in multiple places in college and has the last name that he does.
I thought he was going to be like the 2nd overall pick in the draft until draft night. Like he thought he was going to be starting this year. Didn't want to go to Baltimore even in the on the third day because he wanted a chance to start. He's been very like, I mean, he has been honest about who he thinks he is and what he thinks he should be doing. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a little bit on the front office, right? For like drafting a quarterback who has been so clear about what he wants.
And I will say it's also on the flip side of all of this, like as I sort of give them some credit about how they have gone about trying to develop 2 rookie quarterbacks, is you should not be developing 2 rookie quarterbacks. You should have identified that Dylan Gabriel was not somebody. I mean, Andrew, think about the time that they probably spent this season working with Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
And for what? And so the flip side and
100 pick that just
exactly
is on fire.
So you can argue that they wasted all their time when they could have been like, okay, you're starting Flacco or Pickett or whoever for X amount of weeks, and you're dedicating every other offensive sort of development resource to Shedeur Sanders or to, even if they didn't pick Shedeur, whoever it may be. But that Dylan Gabriel pick just was bad. Yeah. And now it's like he's very clearly either just not going to be on the roster or he's just going to be this forever backup quarterback you're never going to hear from again. So the flip side of those things, while we give them credit for the hand the coaching staff was dealt, the flip side of that is like you wasted resources on a quarterback that everybody knew his ceiling was decent backup, maybe. So I don't want to give too much credit to what they've done, because to add in two of those guys, one of which everybody was aware was going to be nothing more than that, is bad process.
Yeah. I mean, Andrew Berry's hallmark as Browns GM is asset collection is sort of devoid of context always, right? If you can get an asset into the building, you do it no matter what the cost, no matter, as long as it's a plus value transaction, you think it's plus expected value, you do it. And if that means 4 quarterbacks, and, the thinking is, well, if we don't hit on Flacco with the second Flacazance, then we hit on Pickett. And if we don't hit on Pickett, then Dylan Gabriel can keep things moving. And if that doesn't happen, then Sanders. And the reality is that, I mean, we'll see what happens over the rest of the season. I think it's still within the possibility that they busted on all 4 moves, and Sanders can't really do it. And the reason they look so good against Tennessee is because they can't get after the passer. Yep. So even if Shedeur pans out, the process was still really bad. And I think, to go back to the conversation about who deserves to be here next year, I have no faith that Andrew Berry will put together a quarterback room that will surround, if they're in the position to draft Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza or whomever, and they do, is your quarterback room next year Fernando Mendoza, Deshaun Watson, and Shedeur Sanders? Is that what we're doing? Like, but that's what Berry would do. I mean, they just came out for whatever reason and leaked to everybody that Deshaun Watson's going to be on the roster next year. So,
and the other thing too is, like, we joked about this, but like, if you're drafting a quarterback and his backup is somebody like a Shedeur Sanders, or somebody who he's competing with, somebody like Shedeur Sanders, we saw Dylan Gabriel's fiance making a TikTok saying, everybody, like, that's everybody wants Dylan
you're
to
asking
play.
for mess.
You're asking for that. And if you're trying to start this thing over with a number 1 pick-ish, like, I think that's the other decision they have to make, Andrew, is it's either, I don't know if you can have both. It's either like, we're keeping Shedeur and we're not drafting a quarterback.
Right.
Or it's, we're drafting a quarterback and I don't think we can have Shedeur on this roster, because him plus Deshaun Watson is not an environment for a future face of the franchise that you're banking on to kind of be around. So I think that's maybe a question for another pod to really dive into. But I do think, like, that's why these last 4 games are kind of big in a way that they maybe shouldn't be, because, like, that's a conversation and decision that I think you gotta kind of make by the end of the year.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's Sanders or a first-round draft pick next year. I don't know what you would accomplish by having them both on the roster, because it's asking for trouble. I don't think there's really another way to say it. Okay, so the other segment that we want to debut here, Jordan, is well, actually, why don't you take it away, because this is kind of your thing. Why don't you take the floor for this one?
All right. Well, thank you. I in the last couple of weeks, I decided to write a Cleveland sports newsletter, something I always kind of wanted to do, but never, like, had enough time or brain power to kind of do it. Obviously, have had more time of late as I job hunt, but then also I'm like, how do I keep myself busy creatively? So it's called it's on my Substack. My Substack is called the Cuyahoga Bend. It's something, if you haven't subscribed to, hopefully you will do so after listening to this pod. I'm trying to have them come out every Monday morning and every Thursday morning, and it's just really just kind of a couple things on stuff that's going on in Cleveland sports. We're calling it "What the Heck is Going On in Cleveland Sports" because I couldn't come up with a better name. But Andrew told me that he liked it, so that's a huge. That's a huge. If you get Andrew's stamp of approval, then that's all I need. But we thought it would be fun to do a segment off of that called, "What the Heck is Going On in Cleveland Sports?" Just something, fairly. Some of these conversations are obviously pretty serious about the Browns and their future. So, like, this will be a little bit more lighthearted. So we want to do our first one here, Andrew. What the heck is going on in Cleveland sports? And I think I have a pretty good one for you today. And so the Cavs they have not played basketball in a while because the NBA Cup, the NBA's in-season tournament,
which everybody loves.
Which everybody does love. It is, I will admit, it's been a fun addition. It also, I do think it's nice for a team that isn't in it to, like, get some rest in the middle of the season, because injuries are all over the place every season. Darius Garland, the Cavs point guard, has had a rough kind of go of it to start the season. He's dealing with he had toe surgery over the offseason. His toe is still very clearly not fully like healed. He's missed a handful of games. He's been in and out of the lineup, but they've had this nice little like 5 or 6 days off. And somebody asked him at practice, hey man, it's been a tough start for you. Kind of the team is going through it. They're only 3 games above 500. They're not really haven't figured out the right way to play. What have you been doing this week to sort of take your mind off things, really decompress before kind of like this second stretch before the All-Star break in February? And Darius Garland's answer was that one of the things he has done is that he watched the Puff Daddy documentary on Netflix, which if you haven't seen it, I would not say it's a way to, it's not a relaxing watch. It's not a particularly light watch. It's not like throwing on an episode of The Big Bang Theory. I wouldn't say that. So that's I guess for Darius, he's doing his rehab with his toe. He's maybe hanging out with some family, and then he's like, you know what? It's really gonna get me relaxed and feeling good. I want to watch a 4-part documentary on everything that P. Diddy has been doing. Which, if you're not up to date, it's not good. It's not good stuff.
No, this isn't like a music doc.
No, it's not. No. So, Andrew, my question to you from that is like, is that how you relax? You're throwing on some heavy documentaries, or what do you?
I really like the thing where you're like, well, we really want our athletes to be like more personable and more like approachable and like give us examples from their personal life. And then he does it. And you're like, no, not like that. No, hold on.
No. I don't want you. I don't know if that's the mindset I want him to be. They play tonight. And like, I don't know if I want him going in the game, be like, all right, I just watched the Diddy doc. I'm ready to drop 40. So
I like that it's an unguarded answer, but then it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, yeah. Okay. I mean, I hear that it's well done. I guess, I think it's well received.
Yeah. Well, I watched it. It's good. You don't feel good after watching it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You can't really watch all 4 at once.
I mean, you know what? Maybe it puts things in perspective for him. He's like, this has been tough. My foot injury, I'm just really struggling to get over it. And it just, nothing's going my way. And then you put that on and you say, well, but by comparison,
I could be in prison. So,
right. I could be, allegedly a very reprehensible person.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. I appreciate the answer from Darius, and he doesn't do a ton of media, so it's nice to like get a little insight. But yeah, sometimes it's
my follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
What should he have watched to really like lighten things up?
Ooh.
Is there something that you would recommend to a player who's like going through it a little bit? I think this is a great question just in general. Like, it's the holiday season, gift giving is right around the corner. Like, what are we getting for Darius to kind of get his mind on lighter things? Like maybe a Far Side calendar for next year?
Oh, he would. Yeah, I would love to see his reaction if somebody was like, hey, here's a Far Side calendar. He'd be like, I'm sorry. I don't know what this is. This makes me think, because this is very funny. So I'll be back in Cleveland in a couple of weeks because I obviously going home for Christmas, do this every year. And my dad in his later years has really gotten into, and I don't know why or where this started, he loves Hallmark movies. Like, he genuinely,
that's so fun.
He genuinely likes them. And so like over the past, this is like a recent thing, like over the past like 4 or 5 years, like I'll come back, and if I'm staying at his place, I'll just be watching a Hallmark movie. And it is the type of thing where they are so, if you just accept how bad they are and how corny they are, you can really, really enjoy it. There was a movie last year, Andrew, about that the Kansas City Chiefs like partnered with Hallmark for, and it was about like a woman, a woman who had a Lucky Chiefs hat that got like that she lost. She couldn't find it, and she was really worried. And this is obviously why the Chiefs are now not going to make the playoffs. So this is absolutely on her. But she needed to find this hat, and like Donna Kelsey is in it, and like so it's very. And I watched it, and I said, I'll tell you what a joy, what a treat it was.
It made you feel like, okay, well, now I got my jumper back now.
Oh man, I was like, if you put me on a court right now, 50, 10, and 10. So
wow, so zesty.
Yeah. So to Darius, I would say, there's stuff on Netflix too. There's some really bad
check out
Christmas
Netflix.
cheesy. Yeah, check it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
They're buying everybody. So why don't you just go watch it on Netflix?
You know what? Let's shout out Netflix to end the show.
Yeah, they need support in these tough times.
Guys,
so,
check out Netflix.
I don't know if you've heard of it. They're
Give
going
it
to
a
own
look.
every major media property in the next 5 years. So
That
check them
actually
out if you haven't heard.
reminds me of something that I think is funny, which is that I use a set-top box, like a streaming box, for all my.
Yes.
I don't like doing it on the TV, so that it connects to the TV, and the remote. I think this is pretty common with modern remotes. They get like the branded buttons.
Yeah.
The remote that I use for my box, it's called a Shield. It has like the biggest button on the entire remote just says Netflix. And the number of times, Jordan, during the week that I will be watching TV and like fumble the remote a little bit and bump the Netflix button. And if you hit the Netflix button, no matter what you're doing, there's no like, are you sure? It's just like, here you go, bud. Go crazy. Like,
no, they don't need your consent. They do not need your consent.
No, you bump it a little bit and you are deep in the Netflix zone. So that's, I think, kind of just something for everybody to just, hit that button and find out what happens. It's
hit that button, see what's going on.
Free ad. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Darius, if you're listening, or any athlete, really,
yeah,
that's good.
Hallmark
that's scuffling. Throwing a Hallmark movie. You can enjoy it.
So there you go. It's a little free rec at the end of the show. All right. So I think we kind of covered everything we wanted to get to. We're going to try and keep these a little bit snappier, going forward. But we're at like 40 minutes. So I feel like that's pretty good. And I think, knocking on all the wood, that this went well, and we should be able to post this soon, and maybe do it again next week. So let's see. What's our closing segment? Should we have a closing segment?
Yeah, I guess we could. I don't know what it could be. But we should come up with a closing segment. I think that
we kind of got there accidentally with the recommendations. All right, I'll recommend something and then we'll call it a show.
Okay, love it.
I just started watching The Lowdown. Have you watched The Lowdown?
I have not. That's with Ethan Hawke. Am I correct?
That's the one. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I've heard good things. Haven't made it to watch it yet, but please.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't have. I guess what I would say, my pitch essentially.
I don't know anything about it, and
no, my pitch would be that it really makes me want to hatch a few more schemes. Because it's kind of a noir, and so it's got that. But he's like a real. The main character, Ethan Hawke's character, is really kind of bumbling and goofy in a way that it makes me want to I think the specific feeling is makes me want to walk into more buildings that I don't fully know what they are and just kind of see what happens. Sure. That's kind of the feeling, just kind of pop a door open and be like, oh, hey, let's, and then start a conversation. That's what it kind of feels like. So
I think our closing segment moving forward will be, Andrew, what building did you possibly live in? So that's great.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's good. I like that too. Okay.
No, I love that.
That's my recommendation. Is when you're, if you've got some, we've holiday time right around the corner, you've got some downtime, like you said, around friends and family. What do you want to put on? I don't know that I would want to watch The Lowdown with members of my family. Well, it's not that aggressive.
Wow, family taking a stray from Andrew here.
Well, I guess it just depends on your specific views on sexual content and family members.
Sure.
Let's just say that. So everybody has different tolerances for how that, and obviously we know yours because you're watching Hallmark movies. So
mine's at 0.
All right.
All right. That's a great rec, Andrew. I think this was a great pod, and I think it's going to sound incredible. And I think the people are going to ask for more.
We're also going to close with an affirmation from Jordan. So there you go. Yes. There's your affirmation for the week. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back soon. And until then, I don't know what to say at the end of these. I don't have a catchphrase yet. So until then, be well, everybody.